I've bought a lot of Switch 2 games. I've regretted buying a lot of Switch 2 games. And not just because they're all game key carts now, which may as well be plastic waste, but because some of them just weren't worth the price. But then again, there's been a ton of really incredible experiences on the Switch 2 that people aren't even talking about. So this video is 10 Nintendo Switch 2 games that are absolutely worth checking out for the price, and 5 to stay away from. And primarily, a lot of the physical releases for games that have released in the last few months since the console launched. Because if you're looking for a review on any of the launch games that came out for the system, I already have this video from 3 months ago. I like to try and keep the physical game reviews and the digital game reviews separate, which is why I have my eShop Games Worth Buying series. So if you're looking for a lot of digital-only games that aren't in this video today, they're probably going to be in my next eShop video, which is coming very soon. With all that said, let's get stuck into 10 Switch 2 games worth buying and 5 to avoid. It's also a little bit of a throwback to this video that I did like 8 years ago. Okay, first up, I want to get out of the way the first-party games. I'm not even counting them in the list because obviously games like Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong, and even Pokemon Bazaar that's about to release, these are the best of the best that Nintendo has to offer us. The prices are the prices, and they're probably never gonna go on sale. And let's face it, when it comes to Mario or Pokemon, people are just gonna buy it. Okay, the whole Pokemon ZA thing didn't age well, and I have a video about that on my channel. But anyway, I'm far more interested in focusing on games like this first one for the video, WWE 2K25. One of my early videos that really popped was WWE 2K18, which was such a disaster of a release. Arguably the worst Nintendo Switch port to date. The Switch didn't see another WWE 2K game until this. WWE 2K25 on Switch 2 features 60 FPS. The game utilizes dynamic resolution, but a lot of people say it's comparable to the Xbox Series S version. And you have absolutely everything available to you that's in all of the other versions of this game. From dozens of different wacky match types, a giant roster with over 300 wrestlers, and so much more. They really did just cram everything into this Switch 2 release, and not only is it comparable to a Xbox home console, but it also has a feature that the other consoles don't, and that's game share. So when you game share WWE 2K25, even if it's over the internet like I did with my friend Bingle in Brooklyn, they just get their own version of the game, and we just wrestle together over the internet without him ever having to spend a penny. That is a really cool feature that makes the price even more worth it if you're looking to play with friends. The next game that's worth buying is under half the price of WWE, and that's Hades 2 at $30. If you dock this bad boy, you can do 1080p at 120 frames or 4K at 60 frames, and in handheld mode, you're looking at 1080p and 60 frames. Previously in Hades 1, you would ascend upwards out of hell and try and get to the surface above and break free. In Hades 2, the main mode is to descend even further down into hell, hoping to find Kronos and defeat him. Again, I don't want to give too many spoilers there either. That's just surface level. But that's just one mode in this game because there is also an ascending section, and it plays so much differently to the previous game. On top of that, you have the classic modifiers to make the runs even harder, and I think it's new challenge mode where they'll give you random items and abilities, and you have to try and do a goal or a task in a randomly generated run. There's just so much to do. On top of that, there's all new weapons and all new abilities and all new boons and all new gods and monsters and creatures and bosses. Oh, I wish I had time to do a full review, but to be honest, I would never be able to live up to my Hades 1 review, which to this day is one of the best videos on my channel, and I really recommend you go and watch it, not just because I'm really proud of it, but because that was the last video on my channel that I made with my friend Billy. Billy actually helped me shoot that entire video. He also edited that entire video. That was a little baby that him and I cooked up together, and now that video is going to forever be one of my most cherished. So go and watch that if you want. Okay, so that was 2 games worth buying. It's probably about time we do one that's not. And I'm gonna start with Tamagotchi Plaza. Since this game is $50 on the eShop. And if you're anything like me and you rushed to buy it when it released because you thought it was Tamagotchi Life, I don't know what my brain did. Tamagotchi Plaza, Tamagotchi Life. I got all excited thinking, oh, I didn't know that game was out already. No. It was this, and I think it's by far the worst $50 I've ever spent. It's just a collection of awful mini games using the Tamagotchi IP, but not really at the same time. I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with Tamagotchi. The characters in the game are irrelevant. They may as well be little blobs and squiggles. They have nothing to do with the Tamagotchi you grew up with and you love. You can also get this game for Switch 1. It's $40. So the Switch 2 version is $10 more because it includes 3 extra mini games. I couldn't even tell you which ones, but to be honest, I'd rather not have more. Don't buy it for you, your kid, or anybody. An unbelievable waste of money. So I bought the giant skateboard version of Tony Hawk 3 and 4. The Switch 2 version physical is a game key card. I was like, well, I'll buy the Switch 1 version. I'll get the actual game on an actual cartridge, and I'll get a skateboard, and then I'll upgrade it for free. No! Only the Switch 1 digital version of Tony Hawk 3 and 4 gets the free upgrade to Switch 2. The physical doesn't. So I bought the game twice. But I have a skateboard. Tony Hawk has a dynamic resolution, and it does it really well. This is such a smooth and clean experience on the Switch 2, and it really does look fantastic as well. This was my first time checking out 3 and 4, and boy, did I miss out back then. Maybe it's just the remaster or the remake doing them justice, but it really does feel like the Tony Hawk I remember. Grinding on literally everything and chaining together little hops and kick flips before landing back on the grind and just chaining up an insane multiplier. This Switch 2 version is $50, but you do get both Tony Hawk 3 and 4 completely remade. There's cross-platform online multiplayer with up to 8 skaters in new and returning game modes. There's an expanded Creator Skater and Creator Park mode, including the ability to create custom goals to share with friends for the first time ever. There's a new game plus mode that's been added, and the Switch 2 version of the game even supports HDR. If you don't have a lot of time, hey, maybe try a 2-minute skate park mode and then see how much time you got left after that. You'll probably play again because it's fun. Romancing Saga 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2 was my first time experiencing anything Romancing Saga, and I gotta say, I've been pretty impressed. This is clearly the definitive way to experience one of Square Enix's most daring and unconventional JRPGs. It does not play out like traditional JRPGs that I've played before, which I found confusing but refreshing. And I gotta admit, I haven't finished it because it's a lot, but next, Chillin by the Fire. It's $15, and you may as well throw that $15 into the fire. I don't like being so mean to an indie game, but I also don't understand really what they were going for here. The concept is you are just chilling by a fire. You just throw in little chunks of wood, and you try and get the fire as big as you can, and the more that it grows, the more points you earn, and you can use those points on cosmetics to make your tongues look different. I guess the draw here is just you can play with friends, and it's one of the few games that actually use the Switch 2's camera, so you can see your friends while you're all just chilling by the fire. I bought this game with my friend Bingle, and we played for maybe half an hour. We built a fire. There's literally no reason for us to ever play this game again. We did the thing, and there's just nowhere to go. I guess you can try and make your own fun. I mean, it's almost Halloween. You can get a few friends and tell spooky ghost stories around the fireplace, but you can also just not buy the game for that and just do it in a Discord hangout. I'm gonna be nice to Raidou Remastered here, because when this released, it annoyed me because it had a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 release for the same price. The Switch 1 release was all on the cartridge, and the Switch 2 one was obviously a game key card, and there was no upgrade path. I either bought the Switch 1 version so that I had the whole game, but when I put it in my Switch 2, I was playing the Switch 1 version on my Switch 2, and at that point, why did I buy a Switch 2 just to play a game that looked and ran worse? Or I bought the Switch Switch 2 version to play a game that looks and runs like a Switch 2 game, but I don't actually have the game on a cartridge. You see my frustration. I've had to, for all of these games, had to remove the whole game key cart thing out of the equation. This game is brought to you behind the same studio that makes the Shin Megami Tensei games, and it was actually a PlayStation 2 classic that's been completely revamped. Everything from the visuals to the audio to combat enhancements for modern consoles while staying true to the game's original style. For those that didn't play this game back in the day, but you've fallen in love with recent Shin Megami Tensei or even the Persona series, this game will feel familiar, but a weird, like, spin-off twist to the format. You still have over 120 demons that you can choose to become allies with and summon at your will, but there's also a whole detective mystery side of it, where you have to uncover the truth while dealing with unexpected twists and turns. It is worth noting that while this game holds up, and for $30, again, I think it's a great deal, Persona 3 Reloaded is just around the corner on October 23rd. If you haven't experienced it, I would prioritize that. Next up, we have another game that has a physical release in Japan, and that's Wild Hearts S. Oh, okay, all right, you got me. I wasn't actually in all of these game cases. I'm just here to talk about the sponsor of the video. This video is sponsored by Raycon and their new bone shakers. Well, look at them, not called that. I know what they're called. Bone conduction. I call them that because it's Raycon's new tech. They use over-the-ear audio and vibrations to send the music through your skull, through your bones. In fact, I even connected these to my Switch 2 using the Bluetooth, and I tried playing the horror game Kronos. I gotta tell you, when you start getting vibration feedback in your head, it's a whole different experience. Makes it even creepier that it's crystal clear audio, which Raycon has told me to tell you that that's great for music, podcasts, or even phone calls. I'm telling you, video games. These suckers are built for everyday use with 13 hours of battery life. They're waterproof and they're dustproof, and because they're not earbuds, they just slip over the top of your ears. There's like no way they're gonna fall out. And as always with all their products, here's the best part. Raycon gives you premium quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands, which is honestly why I use them and I recommend them. It makes them such an easy recommend. If you buy a pair or you buy anything from Raycon, you get a 30-day money-back happiness guarantee. I've been working with Raycon now for what feels like a decade. It's actually been a very long time. In fact, we're so energetically aligned that our birthdays are pretty much around the same time. I just turned 35 and Raycon just turned something. I don't know. That means they're giving away 20% discounts on the bone conduction headphones. If you click the link in the description box below or go to buyraycon.com/beatemupsbc, that's for bone conduction, not for like before Christ. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring the video. Man, speaking of things worth buying, look at all these Switch 2 games. If only there was someone to let me know which ones of these were worth buying and maybe if there were some that weren't. Next up, we have another game that has a physical release in Japan, and that's Wild Hearts S. And I feel like people are kind of falling on the fence of, is this game worth it? Is it even a good port? I think if you look at the game on other consoles and what this aimed to do for a Switch 2 version, it is actually a fairly impressive port for a game that's probably not well optimized to begin with. Wild Hearts S takes heavy inspiration from the Monster Hunter series. In fact, if you've played a Monster Hunter game, you pretty much know what to expect here. Wild Hearts takes all of the core format and inspiration from Monster Hunter, but tries to put its own twist on things. You have a bunch of general weapons as well as some very unconventional ones, and each weapon has unique characteristics, and then by utilizing the materials gathered from hunts, you can craft new equipment, which then leads to an ongoing cycle of needing to hunt to grow stronger, and you know how Monster Hunter works. What this really tells me is that the team behind Monster Hunter Rise really needs to go back in and give that game a 60 FPS patch and bring the visuals up to date as well. But that's off topic. Wild Hearts is a fun and unique experience and a different take on the Monster Hunter franchise, and considering it doesn't look like we're getting Monster Hunter Wilds on Switch 2 anytime soon, Wild Hearts might be that fix you're looking for. For a game that's not worth buying next, I'm gonna go with Civilization 7, unfortunately. One, it commits the most cardinal sin of all. It's a $70 game that's not even a game key card. It's literally a code in the box. Why? You hate me? That's not the reason why this game is not worth 70 bones, though. The reason why I've got it here is because if you look at reviews of this game online, it is not positive, with almost a universal agreement that this is just not a good Civilization game. Unfortunately, it's just missing so many features that were available in previous games in the series. They altered the core format that makes Civilization what it is, which is progressing through the ages. This version of the game also lacks a lot of complexity and depth, and they've tried to streamline it to make it more accessible to newcomers. The AI is apparently balanced really poorly, giving the game a ton of pacing issues. I picked this one up to play it because it added mouse support, and I thought that would be cool. But as I tried to play this game that I spent $70 on, I felt a lot of those complaints. I felt the pacing issues. I was wondering where the fun was going to come in and all the good stuff that I've heard about the series. It definitely lacked a lot of depth. I remember playing old Age of Empires games that felt more complex. Kronos: The New Dawn crawled its way into my heart over the last few days of recording this. This game is also very technically impressive a port, and it released on the Switch 2 the same day it released on all the other systems. It's just cool to see Nintendo being able to keep up now. It assumes you've played games like Dead Space or Resident Evil. It feels very much like those games, down to Dead Space's melee attack and stomp. And then you have things like Resident Evil's inventory management system. I really enjoy the weapons in the game. They feel very weighted and heavy. You can either shoot them normally or they all have a charged round, which leaves you very open while you're charging it up, but does a lot more damage. Your suit is invulnerable to fire, so you can just light things up around you and burn everything. But mostly what I'm enjoying is the atmosphere of the game, the sounds and the lighting and the world that the game has built. There's something so mysterious about the story and the way it unfolds too, almost like Expedition 33 as you're finding all of these fallen versions of yourself, other protagonists from stories previous who just didn't make it, and you're carrying on their work. I've been playing this game at night with my headphones in bed, just totally gripped to the entire experience and liking it a lot more than I expected to, and also really just enjoying the Switch 2 version more than I thought that I would. One of my more anticipated games of the year, Final Fantasy Tactics. This revamped version is playing at 60 FPS or 1080p docked or 720p in handheld. I have been so excited to dive into this game because I have just heard so many great things about it. Like being able to combine a wide variety of jobs and abilities to craft your very own strategies. You can use the varied terrain of the 3D battlefields to your advantage. You can even use it to manipulate the turn order. And as your party grows, you'll gain access to more jobs, each with their own unique abilities. And then once you've learned it, the abilities you can be used even after changing to another job. And with 20 jobs to master, everything from a white mage, black mage, dragoon, and many others from the Final Fantasy series, you'll have hundreds of abilities to learn. And you have the freedom to experiment and discover as many combinations that best suit your party. Not only is it a really fun and rewarding tactics style battle game, but the depth and the customization and the options that you have, alongside likable characters and an interesting and fun story, and now with revamped beautiful visuals, I mean, say less. I spent way too much money on the Shadow Labyrinth Secret edition, but any edition you get for any price that it is not worth it. This was such a bitter disappointment. The performance is so inconsistent, it's stuttery and jittery, it makes the game feel laggy and totally unplayable, but in general, I loved the concept of this game. It's a Pac-Man game. You play as a guy with a sword, and you have a little Pac-Man buddy, and it's supposed to be like a Metroidvania or something, and you can turn into the Pac-Man, and you can eat pellets and go. I mean, the concept is there, but it's executed just so terribly. I mean, visually, it is one of the ugliest games I've ever seen, with these clip art ass characters and world. It just is not in any way atmospheric. I mean, we had Silk Song come out recently, made by 3 people. I mean, to be fair, I don't know how many people made this game, but I mean, just artistically, the game is nothing to write home about. And then you have the sound effects and the music. I mean, the sounds even just coming from the Pac-Man thing is horrific.
Yeah, let's go.
And then the gameplay loop just isn't satisfying. It doesn't feel good to attack. It doesn't feel good to move around as the Pac-Man thing. The whole experience feels cheap, like a Flash game on Newgrounds when I was in high school. Line Rider, that was a big one. This game reminds me of Line Rider, but at least Line Rider was free. Speaking of games that I bought a big premium edition for, but actually didn't regret, Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar. The guy that used to make Harvest Moon is now making Story of Seasons. The Harvest Moon people now are just doing cheap cash-in mobile type horrible games. And this is also a remake of an old DS version of this game, which is one of people's absolute favorites in the franchise. This game targets 60 FPS and 1080p. It even features a mouse mode for the Switch too. And this whole revamp is crisp and colorful. The full game is on the cartridge, which just makes it even more worth buying. And you can also use the cartridge on a Switch 1. This version of the game updates the classic farming and life sim with 3D visuals, voice acting, new characters, and polished mechanics. You'll plant crops, raise livestock, mine, forage, craft, and socialize. But the twist is the bazaar, because every Saturday you'll sell goods from your stall, refining your inventory, pricing strategies, and shop presentation to attract customers. If you like farming sims and cozy life sims, this is one of the best ones. Now, I'm looking at my list here, and I technically have 11 games, because I figured while I was making the video, I would just axe one. And I think I'm leaning towards axing Trials in the Sky first chapter. However, in saying this, I'm also technically adding it, so it's gonna be 11. I'll keep it quick. This game runs at 4K 30 FPS or 1080p 60 FPS while docked. The Switch 2 version of the game has really fast load times compared to the Switch 1 version, and it's just a really bright and colorful and fun and poppy JRPG where you can enjoy seamless transitions between two battle modes. You have field action or turn-based combat, and the remake also features dynamic showcases of each character's special abilities and magic arts to help make the battles even more flashy than before. I meant to check it out for the video and I never really had time, so I think that's why I'm gonna axe that one. But I just heard a lot of really great things, and what I have played, it looked fun, so there you go. There's an extra little bonus one for you. The actual 10th game worth buying before we get to the last game to avoid is Star Wars Outlaws. And I ummed and ahed when it came to this, if I thought it was worth or not worth or middle ground, but I ultimately decided that even though the game is probably a 7 out of 10 at best, it is such an impressive port, and it's really worth appreciating when developers try really hard on a Switch port. So screw it, let's talk about it. Star Wars Outlaws is a 30 FPS game using that DLSS upscaling. There's even ray tracing. But I remember Digital Foundry were really impressed by that. This is the gold edition of the game by default, which will give you a ton of extra content, including extra missions. While, as I said, it didn't get the best reviews, it is a fairly action-packed title that has you working through missions where you can either stealth them with the help of your little creature guy that can distract enemies while you go for the takedown, or you can just run in all guns a-blazing and blast everything. You can also pilot your spaceship and explore everything a Ubisoft open world game has to offer, which is a lot of mindless fun sometimes. You can sit there for hours just doing fetch quests while your partner watches 90 Day Fiancé next to you, and I gotta be honest, it's just not the worst time. I don't know if I would say it's worth the full price, but if you can get the physical game key cut for 20, 30 bucks, now we're talking. Before we get to our final game not worth buying, I had two games that I just couldn't decide where to place. And those games were No Sleep for Kaname Date and the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. I just couldn't put them anywhere. The Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, I'm really impressed by the fact that they're both 4K 60 FPS versions of these, like native, not upscaled, native. And you also have the whole element of you don't have to use the Wiimote, and it's the best, most comfortable way to enjoy these experiences. But then you also have the fact that it's $70. Like, it's technically a $70 Switch 1 game. And then separately, they're $40. I don't think it's worth it, but it is cool. And if you haven't played them, it's the best way to play them, so I couldn't decide where to place it. And then Kaname Date is such an interesting and unique title. It's essentially 12 different escape rooms all linked together in one grand story, and the game's only $40. And while playing playing it, I was kind of impressed with the escape room side of it. But visually, it was kind of a mess, and it was sort of clunky to play, and the story was weird, and I didn't really know what was going on, and it just left me confused in more ways than one. So I also don't know where to put that. For the last game that's not worth buying, I'm gonna break all my rules here and just go straight for Nintendo's throat. Drag X Drive. Yeah, there's no physical, and I don't really care. I don't know where else I'm gonna talk about this. I spent $20 on this game. I played it for an evening. I hated every second of it, and I never want to play it again. It's like they seriously thought to themselves, can we make the most boring looking game visually possible? Like, I know we're Nintendo, and we're all about color and fun and Mario and Pikmin and red, blue, yellow, green, but how about gray? And then gameplay-wise, for this video game where you have to use the mice, it is so exhausting going like this and then trying to make a shot and then revert and then trying to blah, blah, blah. And it really just is not the optimal way to enjoy a video game. I kind of wish you could just use a Pro Controller. But at that point, it's like, then what was the point of the game? And that's my issue with Drag X Drive. It's $20, and really the only reason why it exists is to give the mice a purpose. I like that games like Metroid Prime 4 will use the mouse, or that Civilization can use the mouse. As long as I'm not forced to use the mouse, as long as I can also play it in handheld mode like a normal Switch game. And beyond any of that, it's just not fun. So there's nothing really here for me or most players, I feel like. And I also haven't heard about it since it launched, so I don't think it did great. Yeah, it's digital only, but again, I don't have a series of eShop games not worth buying, so I guess here we are. Don't buy Drag X Drive, just in case you know, you were considering it. And that's it. That is 10 or 11, maybe, Switch 2 games worth buying, 2 that I wasn't sure, and then 5 that I definitely don't recommend. I'd love to know what you guys think of all the games I talked about today. If you think any of them are or aren't worth buying, like, comment, and if these videos help you, why don't you subscribe? Because all I do is talk about games here, so you might as well stick around. All right, that's it. Play Hades. Okay, bye.